So I heard one of the most profound things around leadership the other day, and I wanted to share it with you. I was on a call with Jordan Arberoa, and he mentioned how he tries to be a greenhouse. And I absolutely loved this insight. It is absolutely necessary for anyone in any type of leadership position, any type of parenting position, any person that has an influence over people. Listen in. This is important. So it is no secret that I love gardening. I love growing things. I've got a greenhouse in my office, a little hydroponic setup where I grow hot peppers, right? I love gardening. And one of my things that I really, really want to have is a greenhouse. Now, a greenhouse allows you to grow things year round, right? It creates this perfect environment that's enclosed, that allows you to grow whatever it is you want. One of my favorite things, I was in England, and I don't remember where. If I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. But it was this, really nice, like a mansion, and the grounds and all of that. It was open to the public. And the thing that I absolutely loved was their greenhouse. They had like orange trees in this greenhouse, right? And it was so cool because, here we are in like winter in England and they have fruit, right? It's just, the greenhouse gives a place for plants to really grow and be their best, right? And for us as people of influence, whether you're a leader at work, a parent, right, whatever, you are influencing people. And it is up to us to create that environment for the people around us, to be that greenhouse for people, right? To give them a place that is safe, that they can grow. So as I started thinking about greenhouses and, my Atomic Triad, Foundation, Framework, Manifestation, I started thinking about what are the primary aspects of a greenhouse, right? For our foundation, its structure, its stability. We need that sturdy foundation for any building, for any leader, for any type of person of influence. You need that self-mastery, right? And if we don't have a strong foundation ourselves, it's going to be very hard to give that to other people. So really, to be a person of influence, to be that leader, we need to have mastery of ourselves. Physical, spiritual, mental, all of that needs to be in place, right? So we need to be looking at what are our habits? What are the things that we're doing on a regular basis? Are we giving ourselves the best opportunity to grow? And are we able to provide that stability to other people in our world, right? Because if we have our act together, right, then we can help other people get their act together. So work on your self-mastery. Create daily habits that reinforce your stability, that reinforce your foundation. Meditate, continuously learn. If you're listening to this podcast, you're headed in the right direction, right? We need to be constantly working on our physical well-being. I'm still in my workout shirt from going to my personal trainer this evening, right? So, as is obvious, I got a long way to go, but I'm working on it every day for my mental, physical, spiritual well-being. Okay? So that's our foundation. Our framework is creating the right conditions, right? In a greenhouse, you've got temperature, humidity, soil composition, right? The plants need specific conditions in order to grow. And as human beings, we are no different. We have to constantly be working to provide for the people in our world psychological safety, right? The clear communication, clear purpose. What are we trying to do? Where are we trying to go, right? And the opportunity, I always talk to my team at my job about taking risks, make a decision, be willing to make mistakes. That's absolutely necessary in order for you to grow as a person. So I'm telling you, as a leader, be willing to get out there, make decisions, make mistakes, and allow and tell your people clearly, I want you to do the same. I want you to have the opportunity to screw things up. It's gonna happen. But I would rather it, happen and them be okay with it so that they share when they have something that messes up, right? Because I've had times where I didn't want my leader to know that I had messed up because I was going to get called out, right? It was not a psychologically safe space where my people know that they can come to me and tell me, listen, this happened, right? And it's like, okay, well, how do we fix that? How do we go about that? There's no, what the hell were you thinking kind of a thing. I try to do the same with my boys, with my kids is, you're going to mess up. You're going to do stupid things. It's the nature of being human, and that's okay. Come to me when that happens, and we will figure out a way to fix it. That is how you create the framework. How you create the right conditions for growth in your greenhouse. Okay. Now the last is the manifestation. It's the growth and flourishing of things, right? This is the result of a well-maintained greenhouse, right? This means that we need to constantly be developing our people, have them go and do, right? It's not just all cerebral and theory. Let's go do things, execute, right? This comes back to, making the mistakes. Be willing, you've got to go out there and you've got to be doing things, right? And, measure, what are we doing? How are we doing it? Right? In school, my kid's still in school, so they've got grades, measuring. How are we doing? What are we manifesting out of the things that we're doing? For you, do your financial statement, right? Money's not necessarily the only measure, but it's a measure. And if there are issues in your financial statement, there are probably issues in other parts of your life. So what are you manifesting? What are the plants you're growing, right? And this is where we start to see, if we plant the seeds of nightshade, a poisonous plant, it's going to grow. Whatever you plant is going to grow. So let's make sure that we're planting the right things. And the way you figure that out is by measurement. What are we doing? What are we growing? What are the results that we're seeing? What alterations do we need to make? Do we need to adjust our tactics? Do we need to adjust our fertilizer, right? That comes from actual execution. Okay, so we've got our greenhouse. How do we protect it? Now, I call this, building a fortress around our greenhouse. In the parlance of my roundtable program, if you're not a part of that, you definitely want to be. How do we create a fortress and protect our greenhouse? The first thing is set boundaries, right? healthy boundaries are absolutely key. We need to make sure that we're not feeding into negative energy, that we're not in complain mode, that we're, watching out for our energy levels, making sure that we're not overextending ourselves. One of the biggest challenges I see in leaders is we want to say yes to everything and really help, and we want to be liked. And there are times when you have to say no. And I've heard so many times over the past couple of weeks in various different meetings, the phrase that always sticks with me is, no is a complete sentence. Nope, can't do it. Right? Be willing to set your boundaries. Create healthy boundaries around your time, around your energy, and around your greenhouse. Right? And remember that as leaders, we are the gardeners of our greenhouse, right? That's our role as the protector for our teams, for our children, for our communities, is we're the gardener, right? We're not going to force things to grow, but we're going to create the conditions for it. We're going to make sure that we're pulling out the weeds. We're going to make sure that we're holding people accountable for the things that they say they're going to do in a healthy way. We're going to make sure that we're giving people the fertilizer that they need, the measurements they need. That, listen, I know you want to do these things. Here's where you are, and here's how we can get you to where you want to be. Right? And I would say that we need to look at this through the frame of the different aspects of our lives as well, right? So, I've talked a lot about leadership and parenting and all that. There are different greenhouses for work. There's a different greenhouse for home, right? How do we set up our work environment to have the greenhouse concept? How do we create that fortress at work to grow our teams, to allow people to blossom and to do the great things that are within them? And then how do we do that at home? Right? It's a different set of skills, but they're very, very closely related. And how do we create a way that we are with our spouse, that we are with our children, right? How do we do and create self-sufficient, confident children? How do we show our spouses that we love them and we support them and that we will help them grow, even if it's scary for us? It's a challenge sometimes, but I'm here to tell you it is worth it so much. All right. Now, some of the challenges that come in, some of the challenges of having a greenhouse. I don't know if you've not had one. As I said, I've got my little hydroponics set up here in the office, and there are challenges, right? I had whiteflies get in, and it was crazy, right? It was a pain. There are pests. So we have to do the same thing for our virtual greenhouse. We have to be looking for the neglect that happens. Oftentimes, for leaders, especially those that care a lot, we burn ourselves out trying to do stuff for everybody else, right? You have to take care of yourself first. You have to be able to have the energy to keep to keep the guards up, to keep the walls up. You have to take care of yourself, right? Remember, self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary. So many times we get into this world, and I am just as guilty as anybody else, right? I need some time to recharge, and I feel like I'm taking time away from my wife and kids because I need some time to myself. For me, that's necessary. If I want to be a decent husband, if I want to be a decent father, I need some time to recharge my social batteries. And then I'm back, I'm engaged, right? Same for work. You need to take time away in order to be truly functional in your jobs. That's why I tell, everybody in my organization, I'm never going to tell you no for PTO. I might say, how are we going to cover for you while you're gone, right? That's a conversation we need to have. But I'm not going to say, no, you can't take your time. You earned it. It's yours. And so we need to have that same level of commitment to ourselves, right? Now, the other issue that you'll often see in a greenhouse, because you're not getting like the natural rain, you go in there and water, you can overwater things. That's called micromanagement. If you try to control what is actually happening too much, you will kill all of the plants in your garden, right? You have to trust the process. You have to let people fail, and that can be really, really hard, especially when it's your children or when it's the people at work that you love. Sometimes they have to fail, and that's okay. And they're going to have a different timeline for themselves than you may like. That's okay. Let them grow at their pace. Let them figure things out, right? You can guide them, but you can't tell them to do it. It's like when my son is taking a programming class, he's learning Python. I love programming. I mean, I've been doing it forever. If you've listened to me, you know I'm a technology geek. I love Python. And so he asked me to come and kind of help him with his homework. And there's that part of me that wants to just tell him how to do it, right? But he's not going to grow that way, right? That's the I'm overwatering at that point. So think about that again. Look at that line. Does that seem right to you, right? So I'm asking questions and guiding him to the answer, because I can see where it's wrong. I mean, most of the time it's pretty obvious for me. And it's going to be pretty obvious for you where people are screwing up. But you can't answer it for them. You have to lead them to the answer. And that is the challenge of leadership and parenting. And it's so hard. It is so hard. Believe me, I feel you. Don't overwater your plants. And then lastly, infestations. The pests that get into our greenhouse, toxicity and negativity, right? Negativity spreads. I had a team recently that, there was somebody that was really, really negative, and it was killing the team. And so sometimes you have to remove that element, right? You have to figure out, how do I remove the negativity, right? It's an unfortunate necessity sometimes. But we have to make sure that we are keeping negativity out of our, outside the walls, right? Because the reality is there are negative things that happen in the world. There are negative things that happen in our families. There are negative things that happen all around us, right? And we have to be the shield to hold back that negativity sometimes, or to filter it and put here's what's happening. It's not the end of the world. We have to keep that toxicity away, right? And we have to make sure that we're not the source of toxicity. And that, that's where that psychological safety and, the boundaries, and all of that come into play. We need to make sure that we are creating a positive environment, that we're keeping the negativity away, we're keeping the pests out. Okay. So, my admonition to you, be a greenhouse. Be the kind of person that is going to create an environment where people can grow, where people come and they talk to you and they feel refreshed, right? That's what we're here for. We're here to support each other, to make the world a better place. I still remember, in middle school, my guidance counselor calling me in. I was 12 or 13 years old, and we were talking about something, I don't remember what. And he kind of paused and he looked at me and he goes, "So Daniel, what do you think the world owes you?" Like, what? I was 12, 13. I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, the world doesn't owe you anything. You were given the gift of life. You owe the world. The world doesn't owe you anything. You owe the world. So the question you need to ask yourself is, how are you going to make the world a better place because you were here? And so that's the question I'm going to leave you with today. How are you going to create your greenhouse? How are you going to create an environment where yourself and the people around you can grow, can flourish, and can be better? How are you going to leave the world a better place? That's the real question we have. So I appreciate you listening to me today. It would help me tremendously if you would give, like and subscribe to this video. We're in a transition point in our world, and I want to try to do all I can to be a greenhouse for you. So you are welcome into my greenhouse, into my world. Bring your positivity, and let's all grow together. All right, my friends. Till tomorrow, keep living your life to the third power.